420, 420, 420,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Darling, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Yes, but it's a positive thing, Paul. The High Life, the Shy Life.
You won't find a cast of characters like this everywhere.
Hello, Paul.
Delicious.
This particular episode of The Shy Life is a little more abstract than usual.
Oh, yippee.
Okay, looks like the hairy guy's ready to record. 3, 2, 1.
Go Shy Yeti.
Oh, I hope he hasn't found out my secret. Do you think he has?
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Shy Life podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. How are you doing? I'm all right. We're back. Nick's back. Hi, Nick.
Hello.
We're going to do a music episode. We've not done one of those recently because we've been doing lots of other things. So we're going to jump back into the 1990s and cover the big hits of the year 1994 in the UK and across the pond in the USA. Let's run the theme music.
Okay, we are recording.
And we're back. So, 1994. We usually start with our memories of 1994. What is particularly notable for you from that year?
But 1994. I suppose it was the year in a way that although we'd sort of dabbled in the films with Prison in the Sun and Retaliators before that, I think 94 was the first time it had been sort of hardwired into the and also the first time that we did more than one actually descriptive film. Obviously with Sutton Park you did every single day, so every single day of you have a representation on video of every single day of 94, so that was quite fruitful from that point of view.
Yeah, I think I do. Although I have a feeling I didn't start doing it literally every day. There was about 3 years where I think I did it every single day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if 1994 I was quite there, but I would certainly would have been most of the days. But,
yeah, so I think that those two films probably dominate my my 94, as it were. That being the part of the Traitors to Twilight Reality which we did together. You know, the two I did. There's An Evil Trophy, which was directed by Andrew Candish, and Tide of Freedom, which was directed by Keith. Certain things in 94 started and certain things came to an end. I concluded my series, which I've been running for years. That's Life After, which was the series that continued after the Magnet Editor. I was virtually out of touch with Joe Bunsell at the stage, and I was finding it with the films coming up and being more and more busy. I kind of felt that I was finding it more and more difficult to find time to write the stories. So I came up with one in the September called The Nazi Hunters, and I said it's about time I actually did a season cliffhanger. And I think really if Joe, in his usual sort of uncommunicative way, is just going to wander off into the sunset, maybe I ought to write this as a sort of bit like a Blake 7 thing, where it could be easily the last episode. So I wrote a bit of a cliffhanger there, and for years that was going to be the end of the Magnet Editor, the whole sort of cabin franchise, if you like. And yeah, it was a very easy story to write. Unlike a lot of the others, I actually wrote it in the space of a couple of days. Which all the story and everything came together in my head in the whole thing. Elsewhere, our good friends Keith and Elaine got together. Although Keith and I had a bit of a rough time of it together on Tide of Freedom, they were still very good friends, and we remained very much strong friends to this day. So we spent a lot of time in Southbourne that year. We did. Oh, what else did we do? I don't think it was quite as busy and fulfilling as the previous two, but again, we were planning more films as well. So I spent a lot of time over at your place editing my own version of Prison of the Sun. So we sort of got into editing a lot, and of course you were editing the Sutton Parks as well. We sold our piano. The old piano, I don't know, I think just I got sick of it. He tended to sell on stuff that he kind of didn't feel that we needed, and bought a lot of other stuff that we didn't need. So, I was still at Four Boys. I was in The Lottery started that year, which didn't please us. It was a abominable thing to work with, a machine, and we were always hoping it was going to break down. And it often didn't, but no, it was. I think it was the calm before the storm. Really, 95, 96, 97, 98. They were very busy years and life-changing years. So I think, yeah, it was the last real mill pond before everything sort of took off. What was the other thing that finished in 94? Oh, Look In. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about Look In, and that finished in 94. I think I might have been aware, because we were selling Look In at Four Boys, so I think I might have been aware that it was calling it a day, which is sad, really. But as I say, I think it was pretty trashy towards the end of its existence. So
yeah, I've seen. So it isn't what it used to be. 94 was a funny year for me because I was at university. And it was sort of my second year into my third year. But so I was at university, but I was about to do my placement. And my placement took place from the third term of my second year and the first term of my third and final year. And so I'd been back to university in September 93, and then I was living with my friend Kerry the first 3 or 4 months of 94. So I was sort of going to Sutton Park and recording Sutton Park in Sutton Park.
That's right, yeah.
Then around Easter time I went on my placement. Now, when I went for my placement, I think it was a civil service post. And I think there was about 11 of us went for the interviews, and there were 10 jobs, so only one person wasn't going to get something. And one of the jobs was in Salisbury, and I was in two minds as to, I'm going to university, so I kind of really want to come back and live at my parents'. But once I thought about it, of course, there were lots and lots of good things about that, but it did feel a bit like weird spending 6 months of my university at home. And also, to be fair, what they were offering to pay, I don't know how well I would have managed if I'd had to have got digs in a strange town. So it actually worked out the best way. And although all of my friends who were at university were still at university, I was able to visit them, and I was also in Salisbury and was able to spend lots of time with you, Nick. You were
indeed, yes. That was we did some good stuff there.
So it all worked. I think I was just a little bit sort of coming home. I'm not sure I want to come home, or I would have even thought about, what if I couldn't afford to live in Salisbury, so at least I feel I'm at university. But no, it wouldn't have been practical. But and I soon got used to that, even though the commute was a little bit weird. Although it turned out that a friend of my mum's actually worked in that place, so they were able to drive me up, and I only had to take the bus home in the evening, and it all worked out. And so that ran until December, and then when 1995 came around, I went back to university for the final 6 months, 2 terms of my course, although that wasn't the end of my association with Birmingham, as it turned out, but that'll keep till next time. But so yeah, so really, yeah, it was university and sort of really working my first job, which was my placement, being in the office environment, working in an actual library rather than just talking about working in a library, doing Sutton Park as much as it, if not more, and sort of going to see other friends, visiting Harry at university or Robin at university, going to see my great aunt in Reading, doing things with you and our friends in Salisbury or London. Those are the sort of things I remember most. I've got a few facts for you, for like music facts from 94. So the first number one single of 94 was the 700th since charts began, and Mariah Carey had her first, and it's her first and only solo number one. She'd already had 8 number ones in America by this stage. She's definitely one of those people who had bigger hits in America. Although she's had big songs, I think she has had other number ones, like with when she's been with other people. And this was also the year of 4 Weddings and the Funeral.
Oh yes, yes, I'm fairly certain I actually went to see that on, when it was out. Yes. Because we just, because as I say, Andrew Kaddish and I had just done the Evil Trophy, which we discovered later when we watched the 4 Weddings and Funeral, has actually been recorded. Yeah. Very near, pretty well on the spot where we had we filmed it.
One fact that I think is particularly interesting, this is also I won't say the name of the song because we'll get to that when we go through them, but the Danish singer Wigfield had a number one this year, and she is the first ever act to enter the UK singles chart at number one with their debut single. That
song I did like, actually. I know we've not covered it yet, but I actually did quite like that single.
Now the nearest we get to, one of the things we get which shows that some of these Britpop bands were that I liked. Less of a fan of Oasis than some of them, although I did follow them. I know you're not a fan, but they did have their first number one album in 94. So the signs were there that music was, but it was very two-sided, very different types of music doing well at the same time. This is also the year that Boyzone made their debut. Again, I'm not really a fan of them. Mostly they did cover versions, at least the ones I remember. This is also the year that Celine Dion became well known. She didn't get to number one with her big song Think Twice until 1995. This is also the year that Prince had his one and only number one single, which we'll get to in a bit. Have you ever been in, I know you've done a lot of amateur dramatics in Salisbury, have you ever done a production of Inspector Calls?
Yes, I have. In fact, I studied it at school, but the thing with Inspector Calls is, did I do that? No, I hadn't actually joined. I did eventually appeared in a production in 1996 at the Alderbury Players, and I played the son in it. And Keith Redston, who later on did my films, was my father in it. And I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I did, yeah.
I only mention it because a British composer called Stephen Warbeck won the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Music in a Play, and it was awarded for achievements in Broadway theatre. The award was made for his music for a production of An Inspector Calls. So, and yeah, that's one of the facts, our final fact is that a record was broken in 1994 for the longest song to become a UK top 10 hit. When Bon Jovi released the single Dry County in March, it only went to number 9, but the song was 9 minutes and 52 seconds long. I know Hey Jude was certainly one of the contenders for a long time. Whether that had been broken between 68 and 94, I don't know. But
actually, mentioning about Inspector, sorry, there is a substantial part of 94 that I've forgotten to mention, and that's my acting at Studio Theatre took off. I'd appeared in The Heiress 4 years earlier, but at the beginning of the year, Andrew Candish and I appeared in The Government Inspector, and was suddenly, oh yes, he suddenly can act. I thought, oh great, I haven't been to see anything else I've done, and suddenly I was getting parts at studio for the first time. So I did. That was swiftly followed up by 84 Charing Cross Road, which was sweet. And Romeo and Juliet, which I was doing, and at the same time we were doing Romeo and Juliet, which is at Wilton House, they were filming The Man is King George over by there, and Nigel Hawthorne actually walked through our rehearsal and smiled benignly. It was really nice. And Louise, my great friend Louise Levy, who I got to know a little bit better that year, actually played a small part in The Man is King George. I think she pitched Rupert Graves' bum. She still has it somewhere.
dear, poor Rupert. I will actually say that although I was buying music a lot in 1994, when I looked down the list of number one singles, this is probably the year I'd say I doubt I bought any of these songs, and in fact I hate majority of them, which but I just mean to say that I didn't like lots of other songs that came out in 94, just the ones that were number one. It was a funny time because we were getting towards Britpop. It hadn't quite got there yet, but even in Britpop, you might have had more rocky songs that I liked doing really well, but they didn't necessarily get to number one. I think in 94 you would not have known that Britpop was around the corner, because if you look down the list, it's all novelty songs or cover versions or let's get into it and we'll see. But then we'll also look at some of the other singles that were out that year, and probably I did definitely buy some of those. But so the first number one of 1994 in the UK, I think it comes over from the previous year, is the Mr. Blobby song.
Oh, yes.
And Mr. Blobby was from a kids' it wasn't really a kids' TV series, although he was a kiddie character. It was a family entertainment program done by Noel Edmonds, who I prefer to think of as being on Swap Shop and Telly Addicts, which was a TV quiz show. This is not a part of his career that I was particularly...
No, I remember Keith was keen on Noel's House Party, wasn't it? That's where it came from. But this extraordinarily inane creation was not like sort of a comic TV creation like Morph, who was amusing, clever, and and sort of, this was just a bloke in a brightly coloured obese suit, just blobby all the time.
He did literally say blobby. That's all he ever said. It was sort of pink with yellow spots or something like that.
That's right.
The other way around.
He was a badly designed one-trick horse.
I can't quite remember. I'm trying not to remember what Mr. Blobby's song was like. But,
Blobby, Mr. Blobby. There's a lot of kids singing it as well, which is blobby. Even as a novelty song, it's pretty crap.
Well, it only survived for 1 week in 94, but I think it had been the previous year as well. Following that for 2 weeks, we have Twist and Shout by Shaka Demus and Pliers, featuring Jack Radix and Taxi Gang. I think this was just a cover version of I say the Beatles song Twist and Shout, but I think it was a cover version when the Beatles did it in the 60s. So, it
was Chubby Checker, wasn't it?
It looks like it's been covered by so many people. I think it was originally written by somebody called Phil Medley and Bert Burns, and it was originally recorded by the Top Notes. Then the Isley Brothers, then the Beatles, the Tremeloes, the Who.
Can you imagine Mr. Blobby being covered by all those people?
I cannot.
Calling Mr. Blobby by Elvis Presley.
Even
Mr. Blob.
Salt and Pepper had only done a version only a few years before, so really.
That's right,
it's
yeah.
like one of those songs that...
Chubby Checker and the Fat Boys, I think, as well.
Yeah. Or that might be the Twist, which I think is different.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
But associated to the same fad, I suppose, that the Twist are doing the Twist. So I guess I don't hate the next song, but it got played a bit too much and got shackled to sort of different political campaigns and things.
Oh dear.
And it was for 4 weeks. Things Can Only Get Better by Dee Ream.
Oh yeah. I like you. I didn't mind. It was just a rather boring song. I mean, I remember my one memory of it is because we used to play it obviously in the shop. My one memory of it was there was an old lady who used to come in, and that sort of sums up the situation. Things can only get better. And I thought, and I just thought, it was sort of like a despairing war cry rather than a decent song.
Yeah, it's just sort of dancey, but no real substance.
Nothing offensive, but nothing worth.
At least it was an original song, I suppose. But I'm following that for 4 weeks. We have Mariah Carey with her cover of "Without You," which was originally done by Badfinger back in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Also done by Harry Nilsson. And it's a song I already knew other people doing, so I think for some people it was probably the first time they knew that song, but I kind of like just another cover version. I prefer whichever version I like.
I definitely think my musical knowledge sort of started to fall into the sea at this point. It got better. I think it's probably slightly better. Better in patches the following year, and even better when I went back to college. I sort of rediscovered the 90s music when I went back to college, when I was working with younger people. But as you said quite rightly, it's a sort of transitional period, isn't it?
I was going to say, was it? We're talking about it crumbling. Did it jump or was it pushed?
Oh, I think it jumped.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness.
I think, I reasonably, I hadn't been a great connoisseur at this stage of 90s music, but hanging around with the likes of Keith, who was pretty up on the charts, and going to Concords. I don't think we were going to Concords anymore now, because I think it either closed or been demolished by then. I think 93 was the last time. So I wasn't getting the charts anymore. Apart from the shop, which was reducing rapidly.
With complete respect, I always think of Keith as being quite a mainstream. He likes the big hits. He's not so much into the deep cuts, whereas Elaine was more alternative. And I tend to think I sort of was. I was perhaps more interested in the things that Elaine was interested in.
When we hung out, it was sort of Right Said Fred and the KLF, and I was never big on the KLF, but I did like Right Said Fred.
So we're now into sort of middle of March '94, and I don't think this is quite as bad as Mr. Blobby, but I think it was pretty basic. For 3 weeks, Dupe by Dupe.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Isn't that
they used to say that the dupe was a load of poop.
I'm sure it was a sort of Euro dance, but I think it wasn't sort of Charleston-y or something, like doop 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 or something like that.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes,
I might be wrong, but
I think it sounds about right. But it was pretty awful.
Let me see if I've got any more. Oh yeah, Charleston-inspired big band number set against a house backing track. I can't imagine they had loads more hits after this, but
yeah.
I won't look. So our next number one is, again, I don't hate this song, but it just never really excited me very much. It's another number one for Take That. In fact, I can't remember if it could be I can't remember if it was their first number one. It was from their second album, and it was the fifth single. So maybe they'd probably already had a number one before now. But most of their songs seem to do pretty well. Everything Changes. I think this is the one. Right. Then didn't Keith used to sing Everything Changes Achoo or something?
Achoo, yes, that's right, yeah.
And I think I'd probably prefer, because Take That sort of came back around like late noughties, and I think I prefer them, and they've been together ever since in one form or another. I think I prefer a lot of their songs from that era. I think it's probably more that I just didn't really like boy bands in this period. So, whereas now they're not really boys anymore. They're more. They can be. I can look at Take That now just as a band sort of thing. They're not being marketed. Yeah. They're not being marketed as sex symbols, which they were back in '94. Then we have, and I do not like this song. It's Prince's only number one for 2 weeks, The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, which I think is so soppy and turgid and
boring. Really the tune's boring. I mean, it's kind of almost the tune. Well, the other Most Beautiful Girl in the World was Charlie Ritchie's one, which was much better and had a tune to it and was. But no, I'm not a Prince fan anyway. I thought his stuff was,
but I could probably
a bit overrated.
I could probably list 50 other songs by Prince that I would have preferred to be number one before.
Yeah.
I think I have said before, I only really ever bought one Prince single at the time. I bought one or two albums since and compilations, but I've never really got into him as an album person, and I just this definitely did not help his cause. I just did not like this song. Goodness knows how it did so well. I don't know. It wasn't particularly attached to anything. It wasn't attached to a film or I don't know. I think it's probably just something where he'd been around such a long time and never got to number one. It's almost like somebody sort of said, really, he probably should have had a number one before now.
Well, it does make you think, doesn't it? Because I mean, there's 1999 was a pretty good song. It was probably the only one of his songs I actually quite like that. When the Doves Cry isn't too bad. It was. I could probably pick enough Prince songs to fill out like a 20 greatest hits type thing of my own choice, but that definitely wouldn't be on there. And really, I don't think he had that much more. I've had one or two more singles after that, and then that's everything started. It was around the time when he was in the news for Symbol and all that sort of thing. And
oh yes, an artist formerly known as Prince.
Apparently, it was his third major release since changing his stage name. So. I think there was a lot in the press about that. So I think,
it's not a brilliant thing to do. However successful you are, it's not particularly a brilliant thing to do because if you're changing, you are a product, whether you like it or not. And if you're changing that product, people are going to kind of lose an angle on it, really.
And George Michael had problems and stopped appearing in his own videos and things around the same time, and I'm not sure that necessarily helped him that much. Anyway, the next number one for 1 week was The Real Thing by Tony DeBart. I think it's sort of a dancey thing. I can't remember if it was a cover or I think it was originally released in '93. But then sort of came back and got to number one in '94.
There was also a Real Thing recorded by Jelly Bean. There's no doubt about it. This is the real thing, and I thought it was the real. I thought it was the Real Thing producing a song called Jelly Bean. You to me are a jelly bean.
I didn't realise, because I knew the real thing as a group. But yeah, it seems to be a popular thing to call either a song or a group.
Which would usually make me think I will avoid it. I don't want my song confused with another successful.
Yeah.
The next number one was a bit more of a rocky song, but I don't think I was a particular fan of it. It's a song called Inside by Stiltskin, who I think were like one-hit wonders. They were a Scottish rock band, but I don't think they were particularly known of before or after. Well, not my.
I think a lot of these I'd probably recognise if I, heard them.
I think it was sort of grungy. I think it was sort of grungy rock as well, which would have been. I think this is the thing. A lot of people, I've heard people say that a lot of Britpop was a reaction against grunge, because grunge was very negative, and Britpop was a lot more sort of upbeat, tended to be more upbeat songs. And I'm looking at Stiltskin, and they had one of their albums got to number 17. They only had 3 albums, and the other 2 didn't even chart, and it was their only. They had a follow-up single that got to number 34, so they were a bit of a one-hit wonder. So following that, we had for 2 weeks in late May, we had "Come On You Reds" by the Manchester United football squad. Enough said about that, the better. Then we had a number one which was around for a long time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Must be Love 13, Is All Around Us.
14, 15, yeah. Love Is All Around, 15 weeks.
Love Is All Around It. That was Elaine and Keith's song when they got together, because it was, big and, it's sort of... So, I remember that. I do remember that being around.
That was by Wet, Wet, Wet. Although, again, it was a cover version of a Trogs song. So I don't think it was one that, although I dabbled in a lot of 60s music, I'd never really spent much time on the Trogs. And the Trogs are sort of Wiltshire-based, or at least some of their members came from Andover, I think. So, but they were never a band I really followed a great deal.
It never really rocked my boat, that song, I have to say.
So now we're.
I quite like the Bill Nighy version from Love Actually. It's quite funny.
Then, so that takes us into September, middle of September, and for 4 weeks we have Saturday Night by Whigfield, which is Red was sort of it was her debut single, and it was quite unusual for someone to go straight in at number one. That was a debut single for a debut single. I'm looking at her other songs, and she had 2 other songs in the top 10. Another Day in 94 and Think of You in 95. I don't think those ones I particularly remember.
I have to say I think I do have a favourite song in 94. I think it was around this time, because it was around the time I'd finished with the Life After. It was Sweetness by Michelle Gale, who had an album out at the time. That was a really nice song.
Yeah, she was on EastEnders around that time.
She was, yeah.
Apparently, Whigfield is called. It has no bearing to her own name. Her actual name is Sannie Charlotte Carlson. Whigfield she chose as a tribute to her school music teacher.
Good heavens! I know when you many years later, 9 years later, when you, me, Chobi, and Lisa were out on my stag do at Dover, we got talking about Whigfield, and we were saying that she hit on hard times.
I'm not sure. Looking at her discography, she still releases things, not necessarily as Whigfield, but
what now?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily over here, but
that's good. Somebody had told me she died. Well, obviously she hasn't. That's good.
No,
I'm glad to hear she's still with us.
No, she's 50. She just turned 50.
A couple of years younger than me. So.
Yeah, she hasn't had any chart placings for a long time, but she's released stuff as her real first name. Now, the next number one is another Take That number one. It's called Sure. It was number one for 2 weeks. I will have to say this is definitely one that I don't remember off the, just seeing the title doesn't remind. It's obviously one that's not, well, certainly didn't stick with me, whether not in a good or bad way. But then after that, for 4 weeks, around the time of our birthdays, Baby Come Back by Pato Banton. That was originally a song by The Equals, which was the band that Eddie Grant was in, and it was actually written by Eddie Grant, so just a cover version. I think it had bits of rap and stuff sort of shouted over bits of it as well, so. as you do. Yeah. Then for 2 weeks we have Let Me Be Your Fantasy by Baby D, which I can sort of let me be your fantasy, something like that.
I vaguely know.
Sort of dancey one. I think that one might have got played quite a lot when Callum and I used to go to JW's a couple of years later. And then this is probably the closest I have to a favourite of the number ones, and also because I don't tend to like Christmas number ones, and this was sort of marketed as a Christmas number one. It had bells and things. It was Stay Another Day by East 17.
Stay Another Day. Yeah, I know the one you mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was number one for 4 weeks. I mean, I don't. If I'm going to have to hear some Christmassy, then I don't hate that song. I don't think I bought it, but yeah, that's probably my favourite number one out of the ones. I mean, Saturday Night by Whigfield. Again, I don't hate it, but it's a little bit annoying. But now let me see. We'll come back to best-selling singles in a minute, and hopefully I'll see some things I like. I'm going to tell you before we go to America, I'm going to tell you some of the number one albums. We've got Bat Out of Hell 2 by Meat Loaf, Everything Changes by Take That, So Far So Good by Bryan Adams. Most of these are only for 2 or 3 weeks. One Woman, The Ultimate Collection by Diana Ross, Tease Me by Shaka Demus and Pliers, Under the Pink by Tori Amos. I did like Tori Amos. I would have bought that album, although I liked her for that album and the album before, and after that less so. She was sort of, well, being that around this time I was a Kate Bush fan, Tori Amos was kind of a bit like an American Kate Bush, and I wanted to like her as much as I liked Kate Bush, but I just never quite got there with my liking. The Cross of Changes by Enigma. Now, I don't know if this is the second album by Enigma, because we talked about Enigma.
Enigma, yes, that's right, with the chanting.
Yeah, this is their second album, but I think we established last time that they only really had they only had that one hit single, but obviously album-wise they had a bit more success and longevity. But into February and March we had Music Box by Mariah Carey, Vauxhall and I by Morrissey, which is one of my favourite Morrissey albums, although I don't I have mixed feelings about him these days. Music Box, Mariah Carey, The Division Bell by Pink Floyd, for 4 weeks. I remember that being quite a big deal, although I wouldn't have thought I was still would have thought this was around the time that I was sort of leaving university to go back for my placement. But I remember I'm not particularly a big fan of Pink Floyd, but I remember The Division Bell had a flashing light built into the CD cover or something.
All right.
Probably quite irritating for people who worked in the shops with the copies, but I'm not sure whether it's one of those things which started flashing when you pulled a tab, or it was a bit of a gimmick, really. Now we're starting to come into things that I like. For a week in May, we had Park Life by Blur, the album. Now that was definitely an album that I was very keen on in '94. Our Town, the Greatest Hits of Deacon Blue. I kind of spent a lot of years not particularly being that interested in Deacon Blue, and then around the previous year they did an album where I liked all 4 of the singles quite unexpectedly. I don't know what changed, but I suddenly, having thought they were just a bit not really me, I suddenly really liked them for that album. So yeah, around 93, 94, I probably actually would have been interested to see the greatest hits of Deacon Blue. Then we have an album by Erasure called I Say, I Say, I Say, which also I was quite interested in. I still liked Erasure at that time. Seal has an album called just Seal, but it was his second album. That's the one that had a kiss from a Rose, which I think was a pretty big hit. Yeah.
Oh yes, I know that. Yeah.
Then there's an album by Two Unlimited called Real Things. Two Unlimited definitely had number ones in '95. They were the people who later did No. There's no
lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. Also, for a week in June, Everyone Else Is Doing It, So Why Can't We by the Cranberries. That was sort of when the Cranberries first started having hits. I was a little bit two minds about them. I like some songs, but I couldn't really sustain listening to a whole album. The next album for 2 weeks was Happy Nation by Ace of Base. Now, I think Ace of Base had All That She Wants. I think that was a number one last year.
That's right, yeah. All That She Wants is another baby.
Yeah, I was quite keen on Ace of Base, so I would have had Happy Nation. Then for a week in July, Music for the Jilted Generation by The Prodigy. Prodigy had even bigger sort of hits coming up in, I'm not sure if it was 95, but certainly 95, 96, 97, something like that. And then the Rolling Stones released an album called Voodoo Lounge. That got to number one for a week in July. I think I might have even had one of the singles off that album. Let me see. Yeah, there's a couple of... mostly, I just tend to like the Rolling Stones of the 60s, maybe the early 70s. But yeah, they did a single called Love Is Strong, which I really liked, and it had a really good video. Then for 4 weeks, we have End of Part 1, Their Greatest Hits by Wet, Wet, Wet. Oh, yeah. Do have a lot of number one albums that only had a couple of weeks. Then we have an album by Prince called Come. Then we have...
wouldn't it knowing Prince?
Yeah. Then we have Wet, Wet, Wet again. Then we have Definitely Maybe by Oasis. The Three Tenors in Concert 1994.
Oh, Ali likes Three Tenors.
Then From the Cradle by Eric Clapton. Songs by Luther Vandross. Monster by R.E.M. I definitely had that. That was the album that had the song What's the Frequency, Kenneth, which is a very weird title for a hit song. Then for three weeks, Crossroad by Bon Jovi. MTV Unplugged in New York by Nirvana. I think 94 was the year that Kurt Cobain committed suicide. I remember being at my placement work when that happened.
I think I probably said, "Oh no, that's really sad. I wonder who Kurt Cobain is."
Then for a week, Carry On Up the Charts, The Beautiful South. Now I think that was an enormous seller around that Christmas because that was their greatest hits. The album they'd done the previous year, 0898, is a particular favourite album of mine. Again, it's one of those situations where I like a band or I like the odd single of a band, but then suddenly they do an album where every single track is. You think, why didn't that? What's different? What's changed? Why are these 12 songs, all tick boxes?
Yeah, I mean, I liked I think Good as Gold, Stupid as Mud was the one from the charts that was in. I think it was in the charts around that time, wasn't it? I remember Blur was around with Girls Who Love Boys Who Love You. Always someone should be. Because I remember Keith liberally singing that when we were doing Evil Trophy.
Yeah, I think we'll come to that when we get to the big set of singles. Because, as I say, I think although I don't like very many of the 1994 number ones, there were a lot of songs I was liking in that time. Because a lot of those bands were starting to come up. So yes, Beautiful South, Live at the BBC by the Beatles. That was around the time that I think the following year is when they dug up some of those old songs that had never been finished, and they had a number one next year with a song, because George Harrison was still alive, so there were still 3 of the Beatles around back in 94, 95.
Yeah.
The last number one album of 94 was, again, Carry On up the charts. As I say, I think it was a big Christmas seller. I think by this point, the compilation albums and best of albums particularly compilation albums, have their own chart. Because I see here, things like Now 27, Now 28, they're not counted amongst the proper charts. So, biggest selling singles, Love Is All Around by Wet 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 is the biggest selling single. Saturday Night by Wigfield is the second. Then Stay Another Day, Baby Come Back, I Swear by All For One. That's number 2. I think that's
One. Oh, yeah. All For One, not Awful One.
Well, I think it probably is Awful One as well. I think it's probably a soppy ballad. But Always by Bon Jovi, number 2. I think I remember that one. Without You, Mariah Carey. Crazy For You by Let Loose. Things Gonna Get Better, Dupe. The Sign by Ace of Base. I got to number 2. I remember that was another quite big hit. Well, big hit for them. That Manchester United song was number 12. Rhythm of the Night by Corona.
This is the rhythm of the night.
That seemed to get. I got to number 2. 1994 is the year that Mariah Carey released her song "All I Want for Christmas Is You," which has never stopped being released every Christmas. But I mean, actually, that's another Christmas song that I don't hate. What else have we got? 7 Seconds by Youssou N'Dour and Nina Cherry. I think that was quite a famous song. Swamp Thing by The Grid. I Like to Move It by Reel to Reel. I think that was I Like to Move It, Move It. I Like to Move It, Move It. I like to, etc.
Until fade out.
Yeah. Love Me for a Reason by Boyzone, number 3. Meet the Flintstones by the B-52s. That got to number 3. That was from the Flintstones movie. B-52s being the BC-52s. That's their last big hit. Streets of Philadelphia by Bruce Springsteen. Got to number 2. That was a big hit. Searching by China Black. Crocodile Shoes by Jimmy Nail. That was linked to a TV show, I think. Number 4.
That's right. He had a detective-y show, didn't he?
Oh, actually, I must have. I'm doing them a big disservice. Enigma had another song called "Return to Innocence" that got to number 3. I thought they just had that one big hit, but they must have had a big hit from both of their albums. We Have All the Time in the World by Louis Armstrong. I think that was connected with the advert at the time. That got to number 3. Baby I Love Your Way by Big Mountain. That was a cover version. What else? Think Twice by Celine Dion. Michelle Gale, Sweetness.
Lovely. I like that. That
got to number 4. All for Love, Bryan Adams, Rod Stewart, Sting, number 2. Oh, this was also the year that Cyndi Lauper reworked Hey Now, Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Oh, yeah.
He got to number... I still prefer her original, although...
So do I. I didn't really see the point of... I never see the point of messing around with things.
I think she had a greatest hits that came out, but it was only quite recently I discovered that wasn't her song. She was covering it with the original. So.
Oh, right.
I've heard since. I mean, she definitely did the better version, but it's one of those ones where you think, oh, it's her song, but it actually dates back to 1979. What else? Quickly before we go to America, I was wondering where Blur is, because as you say, Girls and Boys, and a number of other songs from Part Life, including Part Life, definitely. I don't know whether you were getting a slightly sort of skewed view of how famous they were because of me playing them a lot, but I mean they did have hits, probably, and they did have top 10 hits, but they didn't get in the top 50 biggest selling singles that year. Anyway, the biggest selling album in the UK was Crossroad by Bon Jovi, and then swiftly followed by Carry On Up the Charts by Beautiful South, and Music Box by Mariah Carey, Always and Forever by Eternal, The Division Bell by Pink Floyd, Wet Wet Wet's Greatest Hits, Monster by R.E.M. Parklife was the 8th biggest selling album that year, so it does show that they sold more copies than the Three Tenors. That was Three Tenors in concert 1994 sold less than Parklife, but these things balance out. Who knows? I could go down this list, but I won't because we need to go to America before we finish. We won't stop for long. We'll just compare and contrast. Yeah. So the first number one of 94 in America was Hero by Mariah Carey. It's a ballad. It's one I am aware of, but not a particular fan of. But I think a lot of people will disagree with me. I can't remember how big a hit it was in the UK. Apparently, it was a song originally intended for Gloria Estefan.
Oh, right.
But Mariah got it instead. I don't know if Gloria Estefan was quite so, because she dates back to having hits in the 80s. She perhaps wasn't quite as the trendy new name then, so perhaps it was thought as a good. It got to number 7 in the UK. Then for 3 weeks, All for Love, Bryan Adams, Rod Stewart, Sting. Then Celine Dion, The Power of Love for 4 weeks, and that was her covering the Jennifer Rush Power of Love, which I remember being very big, but I prefer the Jennifer Rush version. It's one of those power ballads that I really like. Then for 4 weeks, The Sign by Ace of Base. For 4 weeks, Pump and Grind by R. Kelly. I like The Sign. I'm not an aficionado of R. Kelly's. The Sign went back to number 1 again for 2 weeks. I think The Sign was probably bigger in the States than All That She Wants. But then for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks, I Swear by All for One, which I think we did say was a hit for like a week or so in the UK. Because of course they didn't have Where We're Wet there to take up all those weeks. So I'm not even sure. Even though I imagine For Weddings and a Funeral did get known all over the world eventually, I don't know that song particularly was a hit outside of the UK. Then for 3 weeks, Stay, I Missed You by Lisa Loeb and 9 Stories. I do know that song, but it's a bit not a big favourite. It's sort of can't describe it. But then for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, about 14 weeks, I'll Make Love to You by Boyz II Men. And then it appears that at the end of that run, by however many weeks I just said, that their next single was out, and they just kind of handed over to themselves, and they had another number 1 for 2 weeks called On Bended Knee. Yeah, Boyz II Men, not my cup of tea. 2 boy bandy, got to number 5 in the UK. On Bended Knee, number 20 in the UK. But then for 2 weeks, Here Comes the Hot Stepper by Ini Kamoze. I think that I sort of am aware of that. That was Here Comes the Hot Stepper. That one. I think he was a lyrical dancer. And then On Bended Knee goes back to number 1 for like the very last. I think the last chart was on the 31st of December. So yeah, quite different to the UK. Big albums in the US: Music Box by Mariah Carey, Doggy Style by Snoop Doggy Dogg, Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains, Kicking It Up by John Michael Montgomery, Tony Braxton, Mariah Carey, Tony Braxton again, Soundgarden, Super Unknown, Ace of Base, The Sign, Pantera, Far Beyond Driven, Bonnie Raitt, Logging in Their Hearts, Pink Floyd, The Division Bell, Tim McGraw, Not a Moment Too Soon, The Crow, the soundtrack, Ace of Base again, Ill Communication by Beastie Boys, Purple by Stone Temple Pilots, The Lion King soundtrack. Now that was number 1 for about 8 or 9 weeks. Boyz II Men, Eric Clapton, REM, Monster, Murder Was the Case soundtrack, MTV Unplugged by Nirvana, Hell Freezes Over by the Eagles. I think the name of that album came from the fact that the Eagles said they'd never reform until Hell Freezes Over. So when they did reform, they called their tour Hell Freezes Over. Kenny G, Miracles, the Holiday album, Pearl Jam, Vitology. Yeah, quite different albums too. It's the trouble with the charts over in the States. Never quite sure which of the charts compares to our, because hardly any of those albums albums that appeared in our chart, except for Pink Floyd and REM. But, well, I think that's quite enough of 1994.
Not in terms of mainstream, not the best year and there has ever been. But again, I think with when my interest in music being pretty not very tuned at this stage. It's really the personal stuff, working with you, doing the acting and the filming and the writing. That's for me is what made 94. My friend Alison Gracie I met as well that year, and I also got to know my friend Georgina a bit better.
I think it's very much that there were new bands coming up in 94, and you could be buying all of those singles, and they were charting in the top 40, but they weren't necessarily the top hits. So you could, as I did, look at the top number ones and think, well, that doesn't really represent what I was buying at all. But whereas now I can say I don't buy much in the charts or anything in the charts, and they'll just say, well, it's because you're old. But I wasn't old in 94. I was 20 going 21. So I don't know what the average age was of people buying songs. Perhaps they were even younger than that. But well, thanks, Nick.
My pleasure.
We'll maybe move on to the middle of the 90s sometime soon. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
As a quick preview of what is coming in 95, without saying the names of the songs, I can tell you that we have number ones in 1995 in the UK from East 17, Rednecks, Celine Dion, Cher, Chrissie Hynde and Nina Cherry with Eric Clapton, all on one song. The Out There Brothers, Take That, Oasis, Live in Joy, Robson and Jerome, the Out There Brothers, again, Take That Again, Blur, Michael Jackson, Shaggy, Simply Red, Coolio, Robson, Jerome, and Michael Jackson again. So some familiar names coming up.
Yeah.
I gotta go now.
I don't care.
Bye.
I want to go with you.
Gotta go. Bye.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh, such mysteries.
He's crazy.
Oh, yippee.
I have a voice. I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice. We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnivazPods.net.
Hello, listeners. Now I'm going to sing you some of the hit songs of 1994. Yes. What have I got here? Kitty Cat is here too. Kitty Cat, sit still, please. Mr. Blobby, oh Mr. Blobby. Blobby, oh Mr. Blobby. No, that's not a very good one. Twist and shout. Someone, twist and shout. No, I can do this one. Things can only get better. Can only get better. Oh yes, things can only. Can't remember the verse. Oh dear, I'm really not prepared very well. What about this one? I can't live if living is without you. Ooh, I can't live anymore. No, I can't give any more. I can't live if living without you. Doop 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 doop. Everything changes at you. You're 1,000 miles apart, and I miss you so much. Everything changes at you. Girls, don't go away. Everyone's a critic. Diggity, the most beautiful girl. I see it in my fingers. I see it in my toes. No, I feel it. I feel it in my love is all around you. And la 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 la. Saturday night, do 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 do. Oh my baby. Saturday night, do 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 do. Oh my baby. Baby, come back. Bye 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 bye. Baby, come back. Let me be. Let me be. Let me be your fantasy. Let me be. Oh dear.
Ick. Usually I tell you off when you don't prepare properly, but I'm afraid the number ones in 1994, I mean, it's just difficult to get that excited about them, isn't it?
I'm afraid it is, Paul.
What about this one?
I can try.
Go on.
Stay now, baby, you've got to go away. Everything I can take such pain, and I will stay another day.
Stay now.
Baby, that you've got to go away.
Ding, 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 ding.
What's that, Paul?
It's the bells. It's all Christmassy. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. We'll stay another day.
Well, that's about as good as it gets, I think.
I think it is about as good as it gets, Paul.
Oh, that's quite enough. It's quite enough.
Oh, dear.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me.